I want to tell you the exact moment I knew my retirement was gone, and I want you to really hear it. I was 61 years old, sitting at a lawyer's conference table in Dayton, Ohio, and a man in a good suit slid a piece of paper across to me and showed me what was left after 26 years of marriage came apart. And the number on that paper was $41,000. 41,000, and half of it was already promised to the lawyers. 61 years old, divorced and broke. And I remember walking out to my car in that parking garage and just sitting there, not crying, just sitting, doing the arithmetic of the rest of my life and coming up with nothing. That was 7 years ago. And I'm telling you now, from a porch 1,000 feet up a green mountain on an island in the Philippines, with the ocean going silver down below me, that this country saved my retirement. It saved more than that, but I'll get to that part. So let me back up, because you need to hear how a woman ends up with nothing at 61. And you need to hear, it wasn't because she was stupid or lazy, because that's the lie I told myself for a long time. My name's Barbara. I grew up outside Dayton, the kind of place where the plants left and the town just held its breath for 30 years. My mother cleaned houses for the families up on the hill and came home with her hands cracked and red. I wasn't a good student, and I want to be honest about that, because people message me thinking you have to be somebody special to do what I did, and you don't. I spent 32 years working in the office of a heating and cooling company, scheduling, invoicing, answering the phone, and I was good at it, and I want you to understand that, because I think a lot of us measure ourselves by whether we were good at the thing we did. But being good at something and being protected are two entirely different things, and I learned that at 61, at an age when you're supposed to be coasting toward the finish line. So where did the money go? I married Dennis when I was 35, and I'm not going to sit here and run him down, because we were both unhappy and we both made a mess of it. But when it came apart, it took the house, or my half of it, and it took the retirement we'd built, split right down the middle, and then the lawyers took a good chunk of what was left. And here's the part that stings worse. For 26 years, I'd made every decision a woman makes when she thinks she's building something with somebody. I took the lower-paying job with the better hours when the kids were small. I stayed home the year my mother was dying. Every one of those choices was the right thing, and every one of them came out of my own retirement, without my ever seeing the bill. And you add it all up, the divorce, the lawyers, the years I gave away for free, and you get a woman who turned 61 with a paid-off car and $41,000. And I figured, well, I've still got the job. The job carries me to 67. And then the company got bought, and the new people didn't need a 62-year-old scheduler. I'm not going to pretend the months after were anything but ugly. I applied for everything, and I found out what a lot of women my age find out, which is that nobody is rushing to hire a 62-year-old. They don't say it, they're too smart to say it, they just don't call back. I moved into a one-bedroom apartment where you could hear everything through the walls, and I sat down one night with a legal pad, because I'm an old office woman and I do everything on paper, and I added up what it cost just to exist. Rent $900, the marketplace insurance almost $400 for a plan that covered nothing until I'd spent money I didn't have, the car, the phone, the electric. And there was no version of the math that worked. None. I ran it 5 different ways. That's a specific kind of fear, when the arithmetic of your own life doesn't add up, and you're 61, and you don't have 30 years to fix it. So here's where it turns, and it's almost embarrassing how small it was. I couldn't sleep, 3 in the morning most nights, and to make my brain quit, I'd watch videos on my phone. And one night, the machine served me up a woman about my age on a porch with mango trees behind her, saying she lived on her Social Security check in the Philippines and had money left over at the end of the month. Money left over. I almost laughed. But I watched another and another, ordinary women, retired nurses and clerks and teachers, women who looked like the women I used to work with, all saying the same thing, that the math stopped working back home, and then they went somewhere their dollar stretched, and they could finally breathe. And I was a skeptic, so I did what I do. I got the legal pad and flipped to a clean page and started writing real numbers. A whole house up in a cool mountain town for $400. A meal of fresh fish and rice for a couple of dollars. A helper 4 mornings a week for less than my old cable bill. And for the first time in 2 years, I had a page of numbers that added up to a life instead of a slow drowning. And I learnt the practical parts too. The Philippines has a proper retirement visa, the SURV, and at 50 and over, with a pension over $800 a month, you park a refundable deposit in an accredited bank and pay a small yearly fee, and you can stay indefinitely, no border runs. And a foreigner can't own the land here. You can own the house but never the dirt under it. So I rent, and I sleep just fine. But here's the thing nobody tells you, and it's the real reason most women who watch those videos never go. It wasn't the money that stopped me. It was the shame. Because there's a particular shame in being divorced and broke at 61. A feeling that you failed at the one thing you were supposed to have handled. That everybody else your age has a husband and a paid-off house and a plan, and you've got a legal pad and a bad number. And underneath the shame was the guilt. That voice that says a good mother stays close. A good grandmother is around the corner, not 8,000 miles away. Who do you think you are? Sit down. What changed my mind was my daughter, Lisa. I told her over coffee, sideways, like a joke, "Your old mum's been looking at the Philippines." And I braced for the worried look. Instead, she put her cup down and said, "Mum, when's the last time you sounded excited about anything?" And I didn't have an answer. And then she said the thing that broke me. She said, "I'd rather have a happy mum on a video call than a miserable one down the street." So I got a passport at 62, never owned one in my life, stood in line at the post office like a teenager, and held that blue book at the kitchen table like it was made of gold. The first document I'd ever had that was only mine, not ours, not a joint anything. And I want you to understand what that meant to a woman who'd just spent a year watching everything get divided in half. Let me tell you the moment I knew. The little airport, the heat, these motorcycle taxis they call tricycles buzzing everywhere like a swarm. And I'm jet-lagged and overwhelmed thinking, "What have you done, Barbara?" And we stop at a red light, and a little girl on the back of her father's motorbike, maybe 6, in her school uniform, looks over at this big, confused, grey American woman and just waves, this enormous grin, like she's known me her whole life, and her father laughs and waves too, at a stranger, at a red light, and something in my chest that had been clenched since that conference table came loose. Now here's the life I built. I rent a little concrete house up in these cooler hills, tile floors, big windows, a porch that runs the whole front, a mango tree in the yard, $400 a month, and from here I can see all the way down to the sea. And there's a woman named Maribel who comes 4 mornings a week, and I have to talk about her, right? Because the daughter of a cleaning lady does not take easily to being cleaned for. Maribel's 42, lives down the road with her husband and 3 kids. The first morning, I followed her around trying to help, grabbed the other end of the sheet, and she stopped and said, "Ma'am Barbara, this is my job. You are making it harder." And it hit me like a truck, because I watched my mother do that exact work for 30 years. So I made myself sit down. I pay her well above the going rate and a bonus at Christmas, and when her youngest needed an operation on his ear, I covered it, and it cost me about 1 old cable bill, and that money is putting her oldest through nursing school. My whole month, everything in, lands around $1,000, and my Social Security covers it with money left over. Now the hard parts, straight. The heat in April sits on you like a wet blanket. The rainy season floods the roads. The power goes out, the paperwork tests your soul, and there are typhoons. My second year a big one came through, and I sat in the dark listening to the mango tree groan, thinking, "What have you done, you old fool?" Healthcare surprised me the good way. A doctor sees me in 20 minutes and sits with me, and it costs a fraction of an American copay. But for anything truly major, a lot of us fly to Cebu or Manila, and you'd be a fool to ignore that at my age. And I won't pretend there aren't lonely nights on this beautiful porch, because the view doesn't fix everything you carried here. It just gets to sit somewhere prettier. But here's what saved more than my retirement. I came here to solve a money problem, That's all I thought this was. And what I got back was myself. Because for 26 years I was half of something, and then I was the failed half of something, and here nobody knows any of that. Here I'm just Barbara who lives up the hill, who's learning to cook adobo badly, who the neighbors bring food to for no reason but that they cooked too much and thought of her. Back home in that apartment, I could go a whole weekend without a single person saying my name out loud. Here, when I had a fever, 3 different families sent somebody up the road to check on me. People ask if I have regrets, and I've got exactly one. It's not that I came, it's that I was ashamed for so long. Because I sat in that apartment thinking I was the only 61-year-old woman in America who'd ended up with nothing, and I want to tell you, you didn't fail. The math just stopped working for a whole lot of us, and there is no shame, none, in taking your hard-earned check somewhere it can actually buy you a life. So if you're out there tonight, divorced or widowed or laid off, doing the bad math at 3 a.m. and calling it your own personal failure, I'm just one woman on a porch, but I'll tell you what nobody told me. You're allowed. You're actually allowed to go. It's going gold over the valley now, the mist coming back up the hills. In a little while, Maribel's husband is going to putter by on his tricycle and honk hello, and I'm going to sit here a while longer, in the life I almost talked myself out of. The office clerk from Dayton, divorced and broke at 61, up on the hill looking down at everything. Nobody rescued me. I did the math, faced the shame, and got on the plane. And I promise you, whoever you are, you're allowed to go too.